Hi, everybody. Um, I was just sitting here thinking, and I was like, why aren't we who we want to be? And that's kind of the question that I have been grappling with for for a while. Like, what is stopping me? What holds me back? And it's always myself, some hang up, but why? And with the law of assumption and the law of attraction, which I really, really love, I do, but it's it's taken me years to really be able to do more than just get like temporary motivation through videos of other people who have been able to use this school of thought and these principles to their advantage. I'll listen to a video, I'll really be like understanding, comprehending, absorbing, and being grateful. Like, yeah, I'm really feeling this wisdom here, but at the end of the day, which is like 30 minutes later, it's like, oh, well, son of a bitch, they're like living their best lives. And I'm still like, oh, like I'm like forever like on the precipice of this like 30-foot cliff. And there's, a 50-foot lake and everybody's jumping off. And I love to jump off of cliffs. And I'm just like teetering, like, oh God, I'm going to do it. I'm going to count to 3. And I'm just like, come on, you can do it. And I'm scared to take that leap and take that next step. I get very turned around in like the forest of my mind. And then the next thing you know, I'm like ruminating. And then I look to law of attraction, law of assumption videos. And they're like, well, if you don't, get your subconscious under control, it's all going to be a wash. It's all going to be for nothing. And I'm like, well, son of a bitch, how in the world are you even supposed to get to the subconscious level and change? That's a big question. And Aaron Doughty was the first person that I really watched consistently. And this was in 2018 and 2019. He was the first person who ever told me, not like directly, obviously, but I heard of Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian healing modality meditation, through his videos. That changed my life. I've said that before. That's, oh my God. It's like something that should be easily worth like thousands of dollars. And it's this free thing that you can do to heal yourself and actually get to that like subconscious trauma or conditioning and programming and just beliefs. So, I'll be forever grateful to Aaron Doughty for his videos and his content at the time. But I can't, I don't know if I've said this before, but I just can't watch him anymore. I can't watch any content creators really who I can like hear the echo of their mansion. I can't listen to them if they're like, on a beach or something. I don't know. I'm not trying to be like a hater. It's just distracting. And I kind of get to this place of like comparison, like, well, what am I missing? They're doing it. Why can't I, And it just ends up being like a Band-Aid, a very temporary fix. And that's what motivation is. It's kind of bullshit in the sense. And now Mel Robbins, somebody who I've loved, she's another person who, when I started really beginning to live and I was like reborn after being almost killed in 2018, I really began to live and say, who the hell am I? What do I want to do? Where am I going? And actually kind of answer that with some agency, or even think about answering that as a complete person who's even like potentially worthy of happiness or a life, or like, practicing autonomy on a regular basis. Mel Robbins was a huge one. She's a motivational speaker, and some people like Tony Robbins and some people like others. And I just really loved Mel Robbins for a lot of the same reason that other fans of hers do. I thought she had this kind of blunt, direct realness that really spoke to me. And she just didn't seem, she was like running with that Karen crew, that Oprah's book club Karen crew, but she just didn't really seem annoying like that. And, motivational speakers, it's like the law of attraction, law of assumption. They're all just saying the fucking basics. They really are. Nobody's reinventing the wheel. Like Neville Goddard, when you go back to like the beginnings and the origin of like the law of attraction, yeah, he was saying like groundbreaking shit. Carl Jung, I mean, he was decades ahead of his time, to where it's just now in the age of Aquarius, like really starting to click in myself. And I know like a lot of us can feel it too. Like, wow, this is like really changing. We are not just these brain dead, fucking meaningless worker bees, Holy shit. That's like the power of agency, the power of now. You know, these principles are actually starting to like buzz to life, like in my heart, and I feel like in the zeitgeist, in the atmosphere, and I love it. And that's why like Katy Perry and all them are like scratching their heads like, why don't they love us anymore? Like, I'm so awesome. And we only thought celebrities were so awesome. I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I thought they were so amazing because they were like just more than human. They were like gods and goddesses. To me, that's how I looked at them. It was like true celebrity worship, and just put them on this pedestal. And I was like, wow, who are these people? How are they even people? Like, they're not getting from A to B to like the big screen, the small screen, being published, being able to like speak words, without having a panic attack. I mean, they were like on different planets. It was fascinating. But things are starting to click within me, within us. And it's like, wait a second, we can live life on our own terms. We can define the terms. We can say, who am I? And then live that answer from a place of like our hearts and our souls, and just with forward momentum and agency, without like, just feeling the need to punish ourselves every waking moment. And, Mel Robbins, it's funny that even it's like, wow, she kind of, got high on her own supply, or lost in the sauce, or however you want to put it. Um, it's like she was just too good for too long, that she really just started to believe like she wasn't just saying something basic, but that's her gift, is that she can speak and say these things in a way that do provide temporary motivation. She is a motivational speaker, amongst other things. That's not like all she is, but that's incredible, because these people aren't saying anything new, but they say it in a way where it actually clicks in our hearts, even if it is momentarily. That moment has an impact, and it all adds up, and it's part of like the inertia of our forward momentum and progress. But she really started to think like, man, I've discovered some words and some terms. Let them. Don't know if you know, it kind of like broke my heart to see that she, I think what happened with Mel Robbins with the let them theory is I watched videos, I watched the timeline. I saw like her say, oh, I just heard about this thing. It's called the let them theory. I love this. Just let them, don't sweat it. Just you do you, let them do them, and all's well. She made that video saying, hey, I just heard of this thing. And then like a few days later, her daughter was like, oh, let them, let Mel Robbins' son at the prom, let him do whatever with his prom date. It's no big deal. And I think it clicked in Mel Robbins' head, but she didn't connect the fact that she had, already had that little bloom percolating from the let them theory that was, all over the internet. I hadn't heard of that either. I don't do Facebook. I hadn't heard of the poem. But she had mentioned it. My God, she had mentioned it. And I think she forgot that she had mentioned it just like 48 hours previously, that she had heard of this theory. And then when her daughter was like, oh, just let him, screw it, she was like, oh, I'm a genius. And I think she has like, gotten drunk on her own supply, which is sad. I did the high five habit. That was, or the, yeah, I think that's what it was called. It's been like a while back now, but that was something else she did. It was just like really basic, but everything's basic. It is what it is, but it's presented in a way to where it actually, like I say, clicks in my heart and our hearts. And I did that high five habit, which is just basically waking up in the morning and consciously getting in a good headspace by doing like a silly little high five. And, I didn't really know how to articulate it when I did it for several days. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I made some videos about how I was feeling along the, like high fiving myself in the morning. But I think the biggest thing for true motivation for me that is not just like a flash in the pan, that is actually like a lasting impact. And it's like, okay, I am a changing, evolving person that is going in the right direction according to myself. To actually do that and have it just not be gimmicky, basically, a little gimmick that helps temporarily, a band-aid, and as opposed to a cure, to actually have that deeper healing. I think we need to take the motivation from whoever, from the high five habit, from the let them theory, from Aaron Doughty, whoever, and then kind of like ruminate on it, think about it, and come up with your own thing, like that you are doing, like for yourself. And so what I've been doing, like instead of the high five habit and just like taking her idea, taking her lead, Mel Robbins's, I've actually said, like, in the morning, I consciously wake up, I open the door, and like take a big breath of fresh air. This morning, I've started walking again, doing like waking up at 5 a.m., doing a 45-minute to an hour walk, a sunrise walk. Oh my God, that has helped me in a day more than 5 days or 5 fucking years of high fiving myself because Mel Robbins told me to, or suggested it. And if she had said, get up in the morning, as people have, this is, it's all basic. Breathe fresh air, ground yourself, like with bare feet. I've started hugging trees and not caring if somebody's like sees. I feel corny, like doing I would used to look around and be like, okay, I don't want anybody to see me when I hug this tree. But now I'm just like, screw it. I don't do it, at a crowded park. I still try to just find a moment, preferably alone with my dog, so I can just kind of, hug this tree and be grateful to the earth and for life and to, Mother Earth. And that might sound woo woo, but that's something that I'm doing for me. And it makes such a difference when it's coming from me as opposed to a suggestion from someone else. It's like when I got sober, when I started to really evaluate my habits of dating, it's one thing to be a relationship person. It's another thing to be like codependent, to be a love addict. What is a love addict? How is it different from codependency? I've said it before, and it's worth saying because nobody told me this. I didn't read it in a book. It's just I had to figure it out because I kept asking therapists, what's the difference? Love addict sounds corny as hell. It's cringy. I hate that phrase. I hated it. I thought it was redundant to say. And I would ask therapists, everyone that I encountered, what's the difference between codependency and love addiction? They really didn't have an answer. But I kind of figured out for myself that codependency is codependency. We all know what that is. Love addiction is when you are addicted to your codependency. You love that manic side of you. And I loved, I did love like a lot of the tarnished bits, and it was just like on a deeper level, kind of that love affair with chaos and with anything that I could consume, whether it was like love or, a person or a drug or Oreos, whatever. So when I started to really get my my habits, my consumption, my God, all of that under control, and really start to think like, who do I want to be? Who am I? Where am I going? What do I want to do? And just living on my own terms. I've kind of got to that question constantly, like what stops me from getting from where I'm at to where I want to be? And also, is where I want to be, is it where I'm going? In which case, that kind of goes back to the power of now. And Eckhart Tolle, that kind of goes back to law of attraction, law of assumption. This is where you're going. You know where you want to go. Where you want to go is where you want to go. It's coming from you. You are the compass. You are like the map. And so it's working out. So is it somewhere where I'm going so I don't have to worry about it, or is it somewhere where I'm just like wanting to go, yearning to go, and I feel like that distance and separation? Like, when is it going to be my turn? Is it going to happen for me? Why can they do it but I can't? That those type of questions will drive me crazy. They may drive everybody crazy because it's like maddening. But what's stopping me from being the person that I want to be? And as I work on being that person, and then understanding on deeper level, okay, it's a journey. It's life is a lifelong journey. So I'm constantly going to be, it's never going to be like, okay, it completed, right? It's always going to be a lifelong thing, a process. As I go down this path, I've chosen the destinations in terms of my goals. I am working on it, but it takes me to continue, going down that path and not get lost in the muck of doubt, self-loathing, regressing back into ruminating and just kind of like self-loathing, and just like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Who do I think I am? All that shit. And so I started to really ask myself, like, what is the difference between I'm trying to like word this in like the way that I was just thinking about a second ago. It's like, why am I not who I want to be? And okay, like, we are who we want to be because we're like on that journey right now and it's happening now. But when I'm stuck, when I feel stuck, when it's like, oh man, I want to be 30 pounds lighter, 50 pounds lighter, I've lost 35 to 40 pounds, sometimes 45. I'm back on track with after an Easter, backsliding like a mofo with Easter baskets galore. Back on track with that. I'm already down 4 pounds in 3 days just by eating healthy. But, why aren't we our goal weights? Why aren't we the person that we want to be? We want to be who we want to be. So that means it's coming from us. It's coming from inside of us. It is us. Our goals are ours. That means that they are they are ours. Does that make sense? So why are we just kind of, here and looking at other people over there and being like, man, they have this, they have that, they're doing this or that. That's what I want to do. So why am I not doing it? And the reason why we are held back is because the reason we hold ourselves back, it's either going to be trauma or it's going to be conditioning. And that is the subconscious, battlefield that really has to be answered honestly with inward reflection. And I've noted, it can definitely be both. If you hurt yourself or hurt others, that's your trauma. If you punish yourself and or others, that is your trauma. What is trauma? It's unprocessed pain that you have not yet found a way to process, transmute, deal with, and actually mine your pain and turn it into growth and a life lesson and something that you can help to elevate yourself and your spirit. So it weighs you down because it's trauma, it's unprocessed pain, and you carry it around in your heart, and it's like a weight. And you take that pain out on yourself or on others around you. and or others around you. So it's either going to be that trauma that you have not yet been able to address or process or begin to process, or it's going to be the conditioning of, of family, the Catholic thing. I didn't know like how screwed up I was by my Catholic upbringing until I really started to ask myself these questions, like, why in the hell, you know, am I not who I want to be? Why do I keep holding myself back? Well, it's like, I heard Stephen King, he said it was an old joke. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but he said, oh, there's that old joke, but I hadn't heard it before. It was actually a very old interview with Stephen King, but he said the joke of, there's a man and he keeps banging his head into the wall. And somebody asked him, why are you banging your head into the wall? And he said, because it feels good when I stop. And I was like, wow, that was kind of like, the first 34 years of my life in a nutshell. And that was that was me. So, and some of that is like your family, is your dynamics growing up, is your mind and your processes and your mental processes. But what I've found, in summary, is that there is absolutely no conditioning, no programming, no instilled beliefs, no trauma that you cannot process, that you cannot get through. That was something with addiction. I used to look at people who had either never gone into the depths and the realms of chaos and drug addiction, who had like extreme trauma, or people who had really traumatic backgrounds and or really serious mental illnesses, even more so than I. And I didn't have trauma, but I had a lot of mental issues. I'm sure I still do, but you know I was aware that there were people who had gone through so much more, who had so much more on their plate, who were born, with like true, trauma, abuse, neglect, etc., as a child, and either had never used and just were leading happy, healthy, functional lives, or they had maybe gone into addiction and self-destruction and then come out on the other side of it. And so I was like, man, why can't I do that? What is the difference? What is the holdup? Why can't I freaking move past myself? And it's like the Achilles heel of your heart, which is, it's that trauma that you just can't seem to stop lugging around. It's that conditioning and programming that just, has told you since seemingly in utero that you aren't worthy, you aren't good enough, you can't make it, you need to do this instead of that. All that shit. That, that is your subconscious. That is the Achilles heel of your heart and soul. And you have to just look at that honestly in your life. I'm finding, as I do, and say, what is that hold up? And just even asking yourself honestly and answering honestly, what is your trauma? What is your conditioning that is your Achilles heel, that is leading you to hold yourself back and not actually be the person that you are, because the person that you are is the person you want to be. And that's the gap, is your Achilles heel, is creating that distance from who you are to who you want to be. If you cannot answer that, your Achilles heel is going to be the hill that you die on, because it is the obstacle of your life. It is the Achilles heel of your heart. But even just asking, what is the trauma? What is the conditioning? Asking it, answering it honestly, that is a big chunk of healing my subconscious, because I'm like, okay, the Catholic thing, it did screw me up. Honestly, it did. And I was called a heretic, a blasphemer, not in so many words. Sometimes, I was told I was going to hell for just like asking questions. My God, how can that not screw somebody up, especially someone who is, my path to God was never going to be through organized religion, especially Catholicism. And I think a lot. I'm an observer, and I have neurotic tendencies. So I was like ruminating on this shit when I was fucking 5 years old. And then I felt like I was the problem. I was the wrong one. I was the dirty sinner for saying, hey, this really had an effect on me for many, many years. And it wasn't good. Just acknowledging that to myself is really huge in moving past it, because there is nothing you have been through. If you survived it, then that means you can process it and do something positive with it and use it as a strength instead of something that is a hindrance to yourself. If you've survived it, that means that it's there. It is the lesson and the growth right for the plucking. And that becomes like, what was your weight holding you down becomes like, you're like badass armor, not like to keep you separated, but just like, you know, to make you like a super version of who you were. That's not just like wallowing in self-doubt and self-loathing. So that's where I'm at with my subconscious, with kind of asking myself these questions and just doing the damn thing, living life in the age of Aquarius. Y'all have a good night.